What up, brawlers? Welcome back to Thrown Hands. It's me, it's Toby. Uh Weird fight card on Saturday. But we'll touch on that a bit after, but we got a special episode today. UFC Commentators tier list now. I went in and I made a tier list on tiermaker.com, whatever that website's called. Great website. You can find a tier for basically anything from soda to heavy machinery. But Toby, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back on the show.
All right, so let me share my screen real quick. This is a mainly visual episode, so personally, I would hop on over to the YouTube if you usually listen over what you call it, Spotify or something. So here we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh wow, right on. 12 commentators. They may or may not be in the UFC still. I threw a Levy in there just because, it's Megan Levy, guys. Come on. But she's a legend in her own right. But who should we start with, Toby?
Well, I think it's only fair to start with Rogan. Even though Rogan may not be my favorite anymore, he is certainly the most legendary commentator.
So, here's my thing with here's my uh qualm about him right now, I guess. Uh, right now, his commentary is not that great. I don't feel like he researches fights. One thing that ground my gears was, he was like, "Oh, Tapori's going onto the ground with Bryce Mitchell." Okay, that's the best part of his game, arguably. But I don't know, Toby. Where should we put him? I'm thinking A tier. He's a legend, but he's not S tier anymore. But I think A tier is a respectable place to put him, such because the UFC wouldn't be where he is today. But as a commentator, he's not that great right now.
Yeah, I think out of respect for Rogan, I'm not going to say like C or D or anything, but I'm thinking a B tier, man. Like Rogan has really dropped off in the past couple of years for me. I could see an A just based on what he's done for the UFC. Like obviously, he's been with them since nearly the very beginning and definitely one of the most legendary commentators of any sport. And he was incredible back in the day. But a lot of his references are super obscure, like very old references that don't really apply to the current state of martial arts. And he doesn't seem, like you said, he doesn't seem to keep up with MMA today, much less like the intricacies of the UFC, which is fine. And I always say this, like, I'm totally fine with that. Rogan is a very wealthy guy and he's very busy. He's got the podcast, he's got a family, but it does mean, objectively, I just think he's become worse as a commentator, which is, like I said, that's fine. But, I wish, I think the UFC has started to decouple a little bit as well. Like he's not on as many broadcast, even like he's on usually only the biggest pay-per-views. So I think they've started to notice that too. And maybe he's asked for more time off, but I think just like purely from a commentary standpoint right now, probably like a B tier, just in my opinion.
Yeah, so I will go ahead and put him in low A tier. When we get things moving, we'll switch him. I think that's a fair place to put him. Um, let's start with OGs and people who aren't around anymore. Kenny Florian. I haven't listened to much of his commentary, but Toby, you have a very strong. You like this. You like Kenny Florian a lot.
Yeah, man, I like Ken Flo. When I was first getting into the UFC, he was long gone by then, but I went on like a huge binge of just watching a bunch of old fights. And I found that one of my favorite commentators was Kenny Florian. Him and Brian Stan. I really thought that they both brought like very good technical analysis as well as, being fun and lighthearted on commentary. They were like Dominic Cruz, but with a little bit more personality, I would say. So yeah, Kenny Florian, I thought he was always a great commentator. He has a cool podcast now. Um, yeah, I thought he was really good. I would put him up there, like an A or B tier.
All right, we'll put him up in A. Mike Goldberg. Here's the thing. He
Definitely
wasn't
a
great, but
legend.
man, he got you excited.
Yeah. Yes,
I
he
don't
did.
I don't know where to put him because he really is not that good at what he does.
No, no, he made a lot of mistakes. Like going back and watching, I mean, this guy would mispronounce names all the time. He didn't even seem like he knew who half the fighters were in there, but he was super exciting and he would always get you hyped up for the fight. And if there was a good finish, he would definitely get you super hyped up for it. So I don't know, just on that alone, I could slip him into a B, maybe a C. I mean,
We'll
he
put
was
him up in B.
yeah, he was
It
not a
is
great
all over.
yeah, he was not a great commentator though, but
Okay.
a fun guy.
All right. Since she's not really a commentator, but she's on the crew and a very integral part of the crew, Megan O'Leary, man. She is a consummate professional. She'll be on UFC on Saturday, and you might see her out on the football field on Sunday. She's that girl, man. She's phenomenal at what she does. She's not a commentator, so I can't put her up in S tier personally, but she's part of the broadcast crew. She's got to be A tier for me. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I think just being on the team, not necessarily as a commentator, but just what she does, she's very good at her job. She rarely makes mistakes when she's speaking. She seems to have a really good knowledge of what she's talking about, not just like reading off a teleprompter, but even still, like she's very good at simply reading a teleprompter. So, yeah, I think she's definitely an A tier, and she's married to Joseph Benavidez, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. uh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, shoot, power couple right there. Damn it. Um,
Yeah, man.
John Gooden. This is he's not on enough. He only
No.
gets like one, maybe two each year, and he's probably going to be the guy in London for the
Oh yeah,
fight night this weekend.
for
And
sure.
I don't think he's been on one since the last fight night a year ago in London. The last London event was a pay-per-view. See, I don't really know where to put John Gooden because he's really good, but his sample size isn't that big. I,
Yeah.
I don't know, because here's my thing: if we put Gooden in B tier, we have to degrade Goldberg to C tier because Gooden's an infinitely better commentator than Mike Goldberg.
Yeah, he's easy to forget about though. He's I almost get him mixed up with Brendan Fitzgerald, even though they're definitely not anything alike. But John Gooden is just he's not on there enough. Yeah, he's a good commentator though. I like him. He has a nice British accent, so that's always helpful for a speaking gig like that. Easy to listen to. But just for MMA wise, I mean, yeah, he's a very good commentator. I would put him in B, probably drop Mike Goldberg, although I still respect Mike Goldberg a lot for what
Yeah,
he's done.
we'll drop Mike Goldberg. um, hmm. Dan Hardy, Dan Hardy, stop the fight, stop the fight. He'll never. That's what he'll be remembered for, sadly.
I
But
know. I know.
he has a great technical knowledge of the game, and he's engaging. If you guys want some engaging MMA content, go to his YouTube. It's a phenomenal channel
Yeah, full
with
reptile.
with the breakdowns and everything. I love it. I
Yep.
basically watch it every week. But I think he's high B, man. I think he's really good at what he does. Um, you know, obviously, you don't tell Herb Dean what to do, but
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm almost tempted to put him in the A tier. I love Dan Hardy as a commentator. He brings such great insight, and the way he's able to break it down in a way that even a layman can understand, like someone who doesn't have much technical knowledge of the fight game can completely understand what he's talking about. He does such a great job of that. And also, with the Herb Dean incident, that is one of the most egregiously awful stoppages in the history of the UFC. Like,
it is.
dude, Jai Herbert was completely unconscious, just laying there stiff, and Trinaldo standing over him with his fist cocked back like this, and Herb Dean is just standing there, and Trinaldo's standing there, and he's like, "All right," he punches him a couple more times. It was like the Jacare versus Chris Weidman fight, where Weidman is like totally out of it, except for this one, he wasn't even moving. Like at least in Mergliata's defense, Chris Weidman was like kind of moving, but Jai Herbert was totally out. And I cannot blame Dan Hardy for screaming like that because Paul Felder was yelling. All the guys were like, stop it. But Dan Hardy was just the loudest. And there was, anyway, that's a whole nother
Yeah,
tangent. But as a commentator, I thought he was really, really good.
I'll throw him up an A. There we go. He's with PFL, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah, yeah.
I just realized I forgot to put Michael Bisping in here. So we'll go to Michael Bisping next. I don't know. He's entertaining, but he does note he has flashes with knowledge.
Exactly.
But
It's hit or miss, man. Hit or miss with Bisping.
like when he was on with Sanko a few weeks ago, he was on fire.
Yeah,
Great commentary.
it's
But
doing good.
I don't know. I think high B would be where he goes. He's not the
Yeah.
best, but he's
Yeah.
definitely not the worst.
No, he's just inconsistent. Sometimes if he's on there with DC, I mean, it is a real bad night because him and DC just get off on, I mean, God knows what they're talking about. But him and Cruz too, sometimes they'll start like, and that's kind of funny. They'll throw jabs at each other, but they just get so off topic.
They're
But
like
when,
children.
yeah, but when Bisping is actually focused, he can be on point for sure. So
Yeah.
I'd say like a B probably.
Yeah. Bisping on caffeine to get him focused.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the he that's high A tier.
yeah.
But goof off Bisping C, so B is where he's at. Laura Sanko. Personally, not big enough sample size, but what I've heard, fantastic. I think B for right now. I can see her moving up very high in the future is an appropriate place for Laura Sanko.
Yeah, definitely. I really have enjoyed her on Contender Series the past couple of years. I think she's been doing it for pretty much the whole time that they've had the Contender Series, and she does a really great job of calling those fights. And I think that the opportunities that they have given her so far on some of the smaller fight nights, she's done really well. So, yeah, I think, B, maybe A tier soon enough. She's like you said, she needs to get more reps in there, but I'm sure that yeah, obviously that's not in her control. So.
Brendan Fitzgerald. Now, I'm biased. He was on Throwin Hands. Great guy. Um, I'll tell you a story about him. I texted him. No, I DM'd him. I don't have his number. But I, I DM'd him like, and I was like early October 2020. I said, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? He's like, I'll get back. I'll get back to you. Let me find it actually, because it was actually really cool. um, Brendan.
Yeah, Brennan seems like a good guy for
Oh,
sure.
he is. Yeah, he is. He's a genuine human being, man.
Yep. It's a
Huh.
good dude.
My messages went away. What the heck? But anyway, so early October, he's like, I'll get back to you. I'm like, oh, there's no way this dude's getting back to me. It's late November. I get a notification on my phone. Hey man, getting back to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, he got back to me. So check that episode. I think it's like episode 87 or something. But yeah, Brennan's a genuine dude. I think he's underrated when it comes to his play-by-play ability. I think he's very sharp. I want to see him on a pay-per-view one of these days. But yeah, Brendan Fitzgerald's the man. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he actually does a really good job. I was watching a couple of these other videos. They were kind of dogging on Brennan Fitzgerald a little bit, but I think he's a really good commentator, man. I think people just compare him to John Anik unfairly because Anik has been like the standard, you know, the what everyone is trying to aspire to be as a play-by-play guy. But Brendan Fitzgerald is very good at his job. And, just because he has a different style than John Anik doesn't mean that he's any better or any worse. I think that he's definitely a B tier guy, maybe even an A tier for what he does. He's a solid dude, solid commentator.
So I think low A is appropriate for Fitz.
Yeah.
Lots of low A's here. We can rearrange after. I feel like we might have to move a couple of these specimens. But
Yeah.
all right, let's just get this one out of the way. John Anik, S tier. There's no debate.
The only objection I have to John Anik, and not that he isn't an S tier, but you ever notice when they're like bantering and Anik does his weird like he does this weird robot like this so robotic, the most inhuman laugh you will ever hear. And it's like, what? Like, what are you doing, man? It's hilarious though. I actually have kind of grown to enjoy it, but it's
Yeah.
like it always catches me off guard. He's like, what are you doing? But no, he's a great commentator. Seems like
S
an
tier.
awesome guy. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, S tier.
Um, Cormier, I want to put him in D tier. I think he's awful.
Cormier, man, he has like very rare flashes, but only when guys are in wrestling exchanges, in very rare flashes of brilliance. And you're like, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. And then a minute later, he just goes on this 5-minute diatribe about, Louisiana or like some random thing that has nothing to do with the fight. And even the other commentators are trying to rein him back in, or he often just forgets who the guy is fighting. Like he forgets the names of the fighters. He'll be sitting there for minutes. He's like, oh, this guy who had this record and he did this, and they're like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, come on, man. He just gets way too distracted
Yeah.
when he's on commentary.
His worst moment was when it was only a couple weeks ago when he was on this bantamweight who had won like 20 in a row in the beginning of his career. He's like, who is that guy? I can't think of who it is.
For
And it
like
was Eddie
5 minutes.
Guerrero. I thought he was
Yeah.
talking about Henan Barrow, but
I thought he was talking about Thomas Almeida,
but he was on it for like 2 minutes. I'm like, dude,
way too
just
long.
let it go. This has nothing to do with the fight. What was even the fight? I can't even remember.
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird, man. DC, I think I was telling you this the other day. I really wish they would bring him in a role like Dean Thomas, but only for wrestling. Like there's a wrestling exchange, or a wrestling heavy match, and they're just like, all right, DC, bring some insight to these exchanges. I think he would do great in that role. I just don't think full-time commentary, especially they throw him on like every pay-per-view. I don't get why he's in this position, but
Yeah.
I mean,
And
hey.
and his bias with the American Kickboxing Academy
Oh
guys
man.
just grinds my gears.
Oh, it's terrible.
Like, he's like, I'm not biased. I mean, yes, you are.
Yeah.
It's impossible not to be. And when it came, I forget the commentary that ground my gears the most, and I think you might agree with me on this, was when Adesanya was fighting Jan Blachowicz,
Yeah.
and Blachowicz is eating these feints like he's just stepping backwards to each feint. That's all he's doing. He's
Yeah.
doing exactly what you're supposed to do with feints. He's getting out of range.
Yeah.
And Jan Blachowicz fought a beautiful fight on the feet with Adesanya. A beautiful fight.
Every round he's like, oh, Jan's in trouble, man. He better start picking it up. He's losing this fight. And then they'll display the significant strike numbers, and Jan is just winning every round on strikes. And if you just watch it, you don't even have to look at the strikes. Like just watch the fight, and he's pretty clearly winning. And DC the whole time is just like, yeah, Adesanya. And not to say that Adesanya wasn't doing okay, but he clearly wasn't winning the fight. Um, there have been so many moments like that. He's just, yeah, like you said, literally anyone is going to have a level of bias inherent in them. But DC is just on a whole nother level. I mean, there was a kind of funny moment I remember where it was the Cejudo and Dillashaw fight, and Cejudo drops TJ. And DC is just like, finish him, finish him. It's like he's not
Like a
even
fan.
yeah, just like a fan, because he's boys with Henry Cejudo. They were both at the Olympic Training Center around the same time for wrestling. And it's like, yeah, it's cool that you guys are good friends, but don't be cheering for the guy to win when you're supposed to be a somewhat objective commentator. I mean, there's also anytime like Poirier fights, anytime any of those guys from Louisiana, anytime they fight, DC is just so upset if they lose and just like going crazy if they win. Like in the Oliveira fight, when he's just like Oliveira gets this spectacular finish of Dustin Poirier in a title fight and extends his win streak to like 11, and DC is just sitting there like pouting basically because Poirier is a Louisiana guy. It's like,
Or when another one is when John Jones guillotined Cyril Gahn, and DC's like, what he tapped to? I'm like, did you not see? I could see that.
his neck, his
It was
neck
the
was like,
downward pressure. Like, DC, come on. You are one of the best. You are a top 10 mixed martial artists of all time. I don't think anybody will disagree with me on that. But
yep.
like, dude, how can you not recognize that? Is your bias that bad that you go, it's John Jones? No, I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, there have also been other moments in fights where DC, I remember he said, I don't know what fight it was, but they were in some ground exchange, and DC was like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on here. I don't really know too much about jujitsu, something to that effect. And it's like, man, you were a two-division world champion in the UFC, and you're sitting here saying that, oh, I'm gonna leave it up to Dominic, for the jujitsu stuff. Like, how do you not how did you not learn that at all in your extensive career?
Yeah. So DC has no excuse to be as bad as he is. D tier.
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
Dominic Cruz, since you brought him up, if Dominic Cruz had a little bit more pep in his step, he'd be an S tier commentator. But
Yep.
he just gets angry whenever Keith Peterson's in the cage, even though that was a good stoppage, Dominic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he smelled like cigarettes and alcohol. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, Dominic Cruz, man, he like 90% of the time, I really, really enjoy Dominic Cruz's commentary. Super insightful. Yeah, he's not the most interesting guy, but he will talk through every position perfectly. He highlights, he does so much film study. Like it's hours and hours of footage that he watches on these guys. He knows their tells, their setups. He can accurately predict things that may happen throughout the course of the fight. He's a great commentator, but he does have some pretty glaring holes, like Keith Peterson bias for sure. Does not like Keith Peterson at all, even though
Cigarettes and alcohol.
even though generally he's not that bad of a ref. I mean, if you compare him to someone like Mergliata or Herb Dean, in my opinion, like Keith Peterson is far better than those guys. But
Yeah.
I went back and I watched UFC 229 as well, not the whole card, but just the McGregor and Habib fight. And man, that was one of the worst displays of commentary in any sport ever. I mean, that alone could send him plummeting to like a C tier, honestly. Just that one fight, I don't know if he could ever redeem himself
Yeah.
for how
McGregor's
atrocious
waiting
that
for him
was.
to punch himself out. He's getting hit in the face, dude.
Yeah, even Rogan was like, no, I think he's just getting beat up. I think he's getting smashed." And Cruz was like, "Well, there's a lot of things happening right now. There's not. Like the whole round, it was just Habib was on top of him beating him up. Like there's not a whole lot happening right. I mean, it was one-way traffic, but
And another one was I forget what the fight was, but he's like, oh, it's a lot of things. Like when they're up in the clinch and they're just swanging and banging, he's like, they are literally fighting in a phone booth. I'm like, literally, where's the red box, man? They're
yeah,
not fighting
yeah.
they're not fighting in that. Speaking of phone booth, look up phone booth fighting, guys. Great sport, but I don't endorse it, but it's better than power slap.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, see, if Dominic Cruz didn't have his blunders, he'd probably be high A tier. But the blunders for me put him down to low B tier for me because when he's bad,
Yeah.
he is bad.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'll put him in a B tier.
Hopefully, Paul Felder, I think he might be S tier.
He's very good. I like Paul Felder.
He's entertaining, and he has the knowledge.
Yep.
That I really do think he's S tier. I think he's damn good at what he does.
Yeah, he's great. I remember there were a few moments he had like right at the beginning of the pandemic when people were still trying to figure out like what's going on and how should we proceed with things. He would go into some long stories and he still does that a little bit, kind of tell these long stories and go off on a rant here and there. But like 99% of the time, I mean, Paul Felder is on point. He knows what he's talking about. Very well spoken, especially considering Paul Felder had got battered throughout his career, even in the fights that he won. I mean, this dude was in war after war after war, and he's very well spoken, very eloquent. Yeah, he's a great commentator. I'd put him up in A, maybe even S tier for sure.
All right, I'll put him up in S tier. All right, we got to do a little bit of rearranging. I think Rogan moves down to B tier personally.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Um, I think this list is pretty good. Bisping is between B and A. Alpha Brain Bisping is an S tier commentator when he's on
Yep.
Alpha Brain.
Yes.
I think I just plugged a Joe Rogan sponsor, but Alpha Brain Bisping is the best Bisping.
Yeah, no, this is a good list. If Brian Stan were on here, I'd definitely put my boy Brian Stan up at like an A tier or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think this is pretty good.
Sorry, Bisping. I love Bisping's YouTube channel. He makes some great content. That's all I'm gonna say.
Dude, it's crazy. So many UFC fighters now have YouTube channels. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Chael Sonnen, Chael P.
Dude, I mean, I saw I think it was Sadiq Youssef had a YouTube channel. I was like,
Yeah,
oh
he
man,
does. He
that's
does like
interesting.
unprofessional breakdown or something like that. I forget what it is.
Yeah, it actually seemed pretty good.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. All right. All right. So big news, big news, big news, as Donald Trump would say it. So apparently, according to what is it? Spinning Back Fist via MMA Mulatto, Paulo Costa and Hamzat Chimaev are fighting at UFC 294, October 21st.
Really?
Yeah. So the Ikram fight was never signed. I remember Paulo said it's not signed yet. Like
What?
I remember Paulo even said that. Um, so I don't know who Ikram's fighting.
Wait, so they're not fighting?
I don't
This
think they're fighting.
That's crazy.
So, someone posted a meme on Twitter, like Paulo like crossing his fingers and behind his back and signing the contract. Like that's what Paulo does each time he signs a contract.
Dude, Paulo Costa is such a trip, man. What a hilarious guy. But at the same time, he's got to be more active and you got to sign on that dotted line. Plus, like I know the Ikram fight, it's a much worse fight for him because Hamzat has huge name value and Ikram doesn't really have quite as much, and he's unranked, and he's actually a middleweight. I mean, it's just a much better fight for him. But the Hamzat fight, I mean, but I don't know, man. I mean, the Ikram fight makes the most sense. Like, I don't really, I'm not interested in seeing him fight Hamzat. Like, what's realistically going to happen? I mean, I think Hamzat's probably going to slaughter him.
I don't know. I think Paulo can beat Hamzat, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. Have we really seen his takedown defense get tested too much in the UFC? I mean, Romero didn't really shoot for any takedowns in that fight, maybe like one or two, but that was mostly a stand and bang
Yeah,
kind
that
of
was more
affair.
of a swang and bang. Um,
We'll see. I mean, Paulo Costa is a huge guy, massive, massive 185er, so
Secret Juice.
it could be fun, I guess.
Yeah.
But we will have to wait a couple months again for Paulo Costa to fight, which is unfortunate. And then yeah, I don't know who is Ikram going to fight.
Who
That'll be
knows?
interesting.
Caio Borralho will fight Nursultan Ruzaboyev at UFC Sao Paulo that on November 4th.
Beautiful fight. That is incredible. I
That's
love
gonna
that
be
fight.
so much fun to watch.
Such an amazing fight. I wish I wish Kyle Brahalio fought more often. I mean, I love that dude. It's a great camp. The fighting nerds down there, they're very good. He's such his fighting style is not the most entertaining sometimes, but he is a very good fighter.
He's a dog.
He is a dog, super talented, very well rounded. Um, yeah, I think he's a great prospect. So, and
Yeah,
of course,
he's
and Nursultan, I mean, that debut, man, can't get much better than that.
it's gonna be a fun fight. I can't wait for that. I'm actually looking forward to that. Um Makhachev wants to fight Leon Edwards, or my bad, Ali Abdelaziz wants Makhachev to fight Leon Edwards. Um
Exactly.
I don't think maybe Makhachev to do that, but I think when something wants to be stirred up, Ali Abdelaziz definitely tweets that stuff. But who I was talking, I wasn't talking. I was watching DC and RC for the first time like ever today. Um, as much as I love Ryan Clark, when it comes to NFL, he's phenomenal when it comes to NFL. Not personally, not my favorite when it comes to MMA, but anyway, that's beside the point. One of the questions was who's going to fight for the lightweight strap next? And the question is, so Charles Oliveira and Dustin let's get this out the way first. Charles Oliveira won't fight in October. He's already stated that.
Mhm.
Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, in theory, should be the next best option. However, I don't think either one of those guys are going to come unscathed out of that cage
No, it's gonna be
unless
war.
it ends in the first round.
Yeah,
There's no way. Like they're gonna beat the ever living hell out of each other.
yeah, they're
Um,
gonna really damage each other for sure.
but Neil just lost. Michael Chandler's gonna fight McGregor. Fiziev lost. Volkanovski's hurt, but Islam's gonna headline the Abu Dhabi card. And Leon, I don't think that's gonna happen with Leon Edwards because he didn't. Because here's my opinion: I thought Volk won that fight against Islam. Uh, round two is a coin toss in my opinion when it
Yeah.
comes to that fight. Th- 3 and 5, obviously Volkanovski in my opinion, but great fight. I might have to watch it again just for the S and Gs. But yeah, there's no way. Like Volk just had surgery, 6 weeks. He only had like a 6-week training camp. I could, if anybody could do it, it's probably Volk, but I don't want the full 8-10 weeks. Who does Makhachev fight? Like, he didn't convincingly defend that belt against Volkanovski. So I don't think he deserves to go up in weight and challenge for the title. And I think Colby Covington should get the. I know that's controversial to some people, but I think Covington should get the next shot. I don't care.
Dude, do you not remember the name, man?
I'd
Come
prefer
on.
not to.
What is this guy on like a 9-fight win streak right now? Come
Yeah,
on,
but he
man.
has no jujitsu and all wrestling. He doesn't know how to submit anybody. I hate watching him fight. I
Dude, but
hate
he
watching.
just destroyed Sean Brady in his last fight. Standing TKO'd him, man.
But he could beat Gilbert Burns with one hand.
No, I know.
That was pathetic.
Bilal is not the most exciting guy.
He's not. I don't even think he's that good.
It would be an interesting storyline though. They fought a little while ago and they had the eye poke. It was pretty severe. Bilal was like crying in there, so they could do like a little build up to that. But no, I completely agree about Islam. I mean, if you have the guy from 45 come up and challenge you and you arguably lose that fight, how are you going to then say, well, I'm just going to move up to 70 and beat that guy? Like that doesn't make much sense.
No, it
But
makes no sense.
I also wish that Oliveira would. I like, look, I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I think he has plenty of time to get in there by October. I'm not sure like exactly
Yeah,
why he doesn't want to fight in October, but
that's what I was thinking. Like
I
he
mean,
didn't take much damage in that Beneil Dariush fight, if any. So
that was like the first fight that Charles has been unscathed, probably in like a dozen fights.
yeah,
Legitimately.
he gets knocked down within the first 2 minutes. That's not even like exaggeration.
I
That's
mean,
what
literally,
happens each
literally
time.
every single fight. In this one, he basically took no damage. I mean, I guess maybe he just wants that. He wants a lot of time to prepare for Islam. It's a super difficult fight. I get that, but I mean, I think he has time. I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
interesting.
the next guy in that division coming off a win.
Arman.
No, Mataush Gamrot.
Oh yeah, Gamrot.
Let's put Gamrot in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He did get dropped. He gets dropped in like every fight, though. To be fair,
He's a
but
really chinny dude.
super chinny guy. I mean, I feel like they could throw Arman in there, even though
I am for that. I don't
I'm cool with
care.
it. I know a lot
I'm
of
cool.
people don't do they're like, oh well, look at his last fight. Like I know people were saying about Islam too after he beat Bobby Green, but it's like we already know how good this guy is. We know from the rest of his body of work how good he is. I think you could justify an Arman title shot, although I would like to see him just get one more, like just one more fight and then put him in there. But if the circumstances, require, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I'm for it. Yeah, if Islam's gonna
They
headline, they got to find somebody.
I mean, they had a great first fight. It was the first time Islam went into the fourth round, I think, with anybody, at least in a long time. So,
Yeah. Um, some other fights. Emily Ducote will fight Ashley Yoder at UFC Vegas 81. That's a good fight. I like Ducote a lot. She always brings it.
yeah, she's good.
Kanaka Murata will fight Vanessa Demopoulos. Decent fight. Garcia's out. Sean Woodson will fight Jesse Butler at UFC Nashville. Okay, that's a fun fight actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Sean Woodson, that guy who's like 6'1" at 145. That's
I
super.
think Sean Woodson's like 6'3".
Jeez Louise. Yeah, he's extremely, extremely long. That's all I remember about him.
He's
He's
six
pretty
foot
good.
two.
Whoa. Dang,
That's
man.
crazy. Uh, Kai Kara France will fight Manel Kopp at UFC 293. That is a fun fight.
Banger, banger, definitely.
I love Manel Kopp.
I've been waiting for Manel Kopp to really come into his own. He had a couple of setbacks in the UFC, but he was such a good prospect outside of the UFC. I mean, he was tearing it up. And yeah, I think he's still got a bright future. The Star Boy, I think he's got a very bright future in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, his first two fights in the UFC were Alexander Pantoja and Mateusz Nicolau.
Yeah, what are you gonna do about that? You know?
That's and he went to decision against both of them, and he arguably won against Nicolau. So
No,
like,
yeah.
what can you do?
I mean, that's how much confidence they had in the guy coming into it. It's like what they did with Yuri Prohashka. You know, they just threw him immediately to the wolves, and we see how good Pantoja is now. I mean, well, we already knew how good Pantoja was, so you know, no shame in losing to those guys. And then he got a couple of good finishes after that.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Okay. All right, interesting stuff. So MVP Michael Venom Page is a free agent. I think the UFC needs to pick that dude up ASAP. Give him some money, man, because I want to see Wonder Boy versus MVP.
that's a great fight for sure. I hope Wonder Boy is still, you know, after seeing him fight against Kevin Holland, I think he does still have it. So I would love to see that fight against MVP. I guess we'll see against Michelle Pereira if Wonder Boy really still got it. But yeah, man, MVP, I think that'll be a great signing for the UFC. I'm not sure how much money he's going to ask for. You know, he was a very good fighter in Bellator. But yeah, he's always extremely exciting. Even in losses, the dude is a very exciting fighter. So I think it'd be a great pickup for the UFC.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
I mean, you don't really see many traditional point fighters anymore as well. He's like an actual traditional point fighter, karate guy. So you really don't see that much in combat sports anymore. But he does it really well.
uh, a little tired, but all right. Did we talk about Jamal Hill getting injured? When was that?
Yeah, I think we did mention that in the last one.
Yeah. So that division's a mess. That's all that has to be said, honestly.
It's in shambles, man.
Shambles. I kind of like the belt getting tossed around. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's fun. I mean, it really sucks though for Yuri and Jamal what they are having to go through, but it does make it interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Um, UFC put out Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler for free on YouTube. Um, yeah, Michael Chandler, he fought dirty. I watched that
Oh
last
my,
night. The fish hooks,
oh
the
my God.
blowing of the blood on his Poirier's face. Like, dude, come on, you
Foul
can't.
after foul after foul.
And Murray Lawler's like, hey, just stop it. Like, dude, Chandler should have had points taken away.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he was grabbing the glove. He was fish hooking his mouth to get him in the rear naked choke. Now I wouldn't say like the headbutt was intentional. I mean, but there was a huge headbutt, which was the only point in which Poirier was actually rocked badly in that fight. I mean, yes, the subsequent punches probably did hurt him a little bit, but he was stunned initially from the headbutt. And then, yeah, I know Chandler after the fight was like, well, you know, with the blowing the nose, he was like, well, I was bleeding a lot. I didn't mean to. He very clearly exhaled it very hard from his nose right on top of Poirier's face. And you could see it because it was dripping blood. And then all of a sudden, this huge like splatter of blood comes onto Poirier's face. And yeah, I just thought it's a great fight. And I still respect Michael Chandler. He's a warrior, always, putting on dogfights. But I thought he was getting desperate in that fight. After getting that first round, he got dropped badly, and Poirier hit him with that elbow right at the end of the round. I mean, he was seconds from putting him out of there. I think
He
Chandler was
was.
super, super desperate in that fight.
Yeah, that was a fight. But Poirier is like the outside of Oliveira, he might be the last dude you want on your back in the UFC.
Dude, Poirier, oh man, he may be my favorite fighter. You know, every time there's a firefight like that, his composure in just absolute war is unbelievable. Like this guy always finds the perfect shot. If you watch that fight against Chandler, he was landing almost every single shot that he was throwing. His combinations are so beautiful. Even when he's hurt and he's on the retreat, his counters are so effective. I just went back and watched his second fight with Max Holloway again, and his guard in that fight is incredible. I mean, the way he uses that high guard to just boom, turn, block every punch, and then counter so effectively. The way he would step in with the left, duck down, switch stances, come in with the overhand right. I mean, everything he does is so beautiful, man. I love Dustin Poirier. he's more exciting than Gaethje, more exciting than Chandler, and more technical. And that's why
Yes, yes. Poirier is the most exciting guy in the division. I don't care what anybody says.
he's the
It's
most
not even
exciting guy,
close.
period. And he is going to beat Justin Gaethje. Although I do love Justin Gaethje too. Great guy, awesome fighter. I love Poirier
Fun
even
as hell
more.
to watch. We're not
Very,
saying Justin
very fun.
Gaethje isn't fun to watch, guys.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Justin Gaethje, it's like this, man. Like Poirier's right here.
Yeah,
Gaethje's just like ever so slightly. I mean, Gaethje, second most exciting guy in the UFC. Poirier, the most exciting guy.
yeah. So this fight is almost bound to be fireworks. I'm not going to jinx it and say it is bound. Um. Oh, what was I gonna? Oh, Paddy Pimblett. He doesn't want to go over 198 ever again, as he shouldn't.
When is that guy fighting again?
Probably 2024. I think he said something along those lines. He's like, I
Wow.
want 3 fights in 2024, mate.
Maybe just get one in this year, man.
I don't know. I don't know.
Has he fought this year? Wasn't his last fight like December of 2022?
Yeah, when he lost to
Yeah, when he got 30-27 by Jared Gordon.
Jared, we're not. I don't want to hate on Jared Gordon. The dude could fight, man.
Yeah, he's
But
all right.
like it wasn't even close.
That
He
was such a
It was a
terrible decision.
29-28 for sure in favor of Jared
Easily,
Gordon. And that
easily.
second round was a toss up.
Man, I hate it so much when Dana was in the press conference like, well, Jared Gordon just had a bad game plan. Oh, blah, blah, blah. What are you talking about, man? Like, yeah, maybe he could have been more aggressive, but he clearly did enough to win that fight. Like, it wasn't even, there was no debate. I mean, if you look at the media scores, I think it was, I don't know if a single media analyst had it for Paddy Pimblett. I think every single one had
I'll
it for
go to
Jared
MMA
Gordon.
decisions. I'm gonna look that up.
Because I remember even with the O'Malley fight, everyone always talks about oh how bad the O'Malley decision was. Even though hot take personally, I did score it for O'Malley 1-3. Although I have watched that fight back and I was like, okay, yeah, Jan did probably win that fight. But on first watch, I thought O'Malley did enough in the first and third.
It wasn't even a bad. That wasn't even a bad decision.
It was yeah,
Like
it was not that bad.
it was
It's a close fight.
borderline robbery. I thought to me, it was clear Piotr Jan won, but I'm not going to go out and be like, oh, you're an idiot if you thought Sean O'Malley won that fight. Because he had his moments. He made it
Yeah.
close.
He rocked him. He cut him up bad in that third round. And I was just impressed more than anything by O'Malley because I thought he was fading in the second round really hard. And then he came out in the third. He landed more strikes. He landed the huge knee that busted up Peter. And yeah, he got caught with some big counters. So probably Jan did win that fight, but it was not like a very clear robbery or anything. The Pimblett fight, I mean, that was like textbook robbery. There's no way. I don't see how anybody could score that fight for Paddy Pimblett at all.
Yeah. So Doug Crosby scored at 29. They all scored at 29-28 in favor of Pimblett.
Yeah, it was
Crosby, Chris
unanimous.
Lee,
I
and
mean,
Ron McCarthy.
crazy, man. Crazy. That was a unanimous
And
decision.
only one media guy, Dan Urban. I don't even know who that dude is. Um, from the media scored it in favor of Paddy Pimblett.
And
Jeez.
then you've got the Barstool Sports guys that are like, "Oh, we told you so," wearing their stupid wigs. Like, yeah, well, we told everybody that Paddy was gonna win. Dude, you jumped on the bandwagon, and then he had one of the worst performances of his whole career.
Yeah,
So
really.
awesome, good for you, man. Dave
Good for
Portnoy.
you.
Yeah.
There's one thing I want to look up. It was from the DC and RC episode. It was another question that I thought was really good. But no more high home main events, probably.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Look, I love Holly Holm. I respect her a lot. I do not love her fighting style. She pushes people against the cage and she holds them there. She knees them in the thigh. She maybe throws a knee to the body every once in a while. She throws a short little, left uppercut or left hook, and then she doesn't do anything else. I mean, she had one of the greatest moments in UFC history, knocking out Ronda Rousey. And we will all be eternally grateful to Holly Holm for doing that to Ronda Rousey. With that being said, ever since then, it was it was a steady decline. Her fights got less and less exciting. And I don't know, maybe it was partly due to the Misha Tate fight where she was up confidently and then she got choked out with like 2 minutes left in the fight, lost the title. I'm not sure. But yeah, she's 41, 42. she's just not a super exciting fighter. And they just keep sticking her in main events one after another when she never delivers. She has not delivered on a main event like her last
No,
7 tries. So, you
no.
know,
I mean, Holly Holman's a very pivotal person in the UFC. We're not. She's
yeah,
awesome, but like
can't downplay
as
that.
she got older, it got hard to watch.
Yeah.
But shout out Holly Holm. All right, let's talk about Jack Della Maddalena. So his opponent brought it, no question. I need to go back and watch it. I watched the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
His opponent brought it, no question. But Jack Della Maddalena cut down to 170 twice in 2 weeks, man. Like that, you're not going to be at 100%. There's no way, no
No,
way. Your body
no.
can't handle that. So if he had gotten him on a full camp, I think that dude would have been out of there ASAP, personally. Because Jack Della Maddalena is that good. People are like, oh, it was wrestling. He cut twice in 2 weeks, man. Like, stop it. Like, jeez. Like, Jack
Yeah.
Della Maddalena is that dude.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think anybody that's saying like, oh, well, this proves that he's actually not as good as people thought and that Sean Brady would just kill him and this and that. Okay, stop kidding yourself, man. JDM is one of the most talented prospects, not just in the welterweight division, in the whole UFC right now. Every performance that we've seen from him so far, even this performance, I would still say I 100% agree with that statement. But I think in this fight, he just made some bad decisions like jumping the guillotine multiple times when he certainly should not have jumped the guillotine. And yeah, maybe, he just wanted to get that guy out of there. Maybe he was confident. Maybe he's, really just confident in his guillotine. But after the first couple attempts, it was clearly he was just ending up on bottom position and was losing, lost around because of it and was losing a lot of control time over it. So I think he could have probably avoided those. He also, one of his greatest qualities is his body work. He has nasty, nasty body work. And it was really not until the third round that he started punishing the guy's body. And I thought if he would have gone to that a bit earlier, especially with like uppercuts, I think he would have done really well in that regard. So I think he just made a few mistakes throughout the fight, but it was a short notice replacement. He cut weight twice in 2 weeks. I think we can definitely forgive him for that. We all saw what he did to Randy Brown. We saw what he did to, all the other guys that he's fought. I don't think this takes away from him at all. I think that he's going to bounce back. I think he's going to learn a lot from this fight. I think he's going to bounce back very strong.
Estela Nunez dislocated her elbow. That was one of the gnarliest injuries I've ever seen. And I don't get why Dana White was posting it on the internet, man. Like, come
Oh,
on. I don't want to see that. Come on, Uncle
that
Dana.
that was so brutal, man. But the fortunate thing is that I think she'll actually recover fairly quickly because it was a dislocation. I don't think she broke it. I mean, she might have. Don't quote me on this, but I think it was just a dislocation. So she might actually recover pretty quick.
It depends whether or not she tore her UCL. So if she didn't, it actually might not be that bad. So,
Yeah, but it looked really, really bad.
oh, oh. Myra Bueno Silva tells Juliana Pena to shut up. That's all I need to hear.
Yeah, I think Bueno Silva takes that fight for sure. I think she
I,
wins that if they fight.
she's good, man.
She's pretty good. She's a finisher, which is much, I mean, desperately needed in the women's bantamweight division. So
I'm just sad Otman Zaitar lost.
yeah, man. Yeah, that was a tough
I,
one.
I love Otman Zaitar.
Hey, he brings it. He's super exciting no matter what, even
Yeah.
defeat. And he always will have one of the most horrifying knockouts of all time, where that guy was just like spazzing out on the canvas.
Yeah.
So
No, you don't get knocked out that badly.
that was very, very
That was
brutal.
horrible.
Yeah, it was almost hard to watch, man.
Hold on, who was that? I gotta look it up now. Hold on.
You
I'm
know,
almost there.
dude, there are not many times that I've watched the UFC where I'm like, man, this is hard to watch. The only other time I can distinctly remember where I had a hard time watching was when Rob Font was fighting Cheeto Vera and he just kept getting hurt at the end of every round. And there was one point where he got hit with like a hook kick in the face and he was like, he looked scared. He looked like a chainsaw killer was coming to get him. And I was like, oh man, please stop this fight.
Yeah.
But
He
that was
he
another moment. That knockout was really awful.
he. It was Timu Pakalin.
Yeah.
Um,
He's been knocked out. I think he had like 2 fights in the UFC. He got knocked out in horrifying fashion in both of them, I believe.
Yeah, by Mark DeCasey and Atman
Tough luck,
Azaitar.
man. Tough luck.
Dude, jeez. Um, trying to see what else there is. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it, man. What a lot has happened in a few short days, but so this
Yep.
episode will be out. If you're watching it Wednesday, we record this day before, or Thursday, we record it 2 days prior. But Toby, UFC London's coming up. Honestly, the card's not that great. Um, it's nothing special. I'm excited for Tom Aspinall, but I think he might just mop the floor with Tabura.
Yeah, it's a bit of a middling card, not incredible, not terrible. It's mediocre. But yeah, anything headlined by Tom Aspinall, I'm all for it. I think he's one of the best heavyweight prospects to come through in a long time. Super unfortunate to see what happened with the Curtis Blades fight. He got injured in like 15 seconds, but I think he's going to bounce back really strong in this fight. And I agree. I think he might, tear through Tybura.
Yeah, for sure. But that'll do it for this episode of Throwing Hands. When we get back, obviously, preview of UFC London. So peace out, y'all.
Peace.